are here. Finally, guys. Finally, we are here. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is the first episode of Hips, which is Hidden, Naomi,
In,
Charmaine,
Plain,
Jenna.
Light.
We finally did it.
We did. Apologies for the lateness, guys. But obviously we have to stay true to
technical.
So I'm Sarah Amanda, and then we have the wonderful down there, Naomi.
Hi, everybody.
And then we have the amazing Charmaine.
Oh.
The way you're pointing, I'm here.
I know, it's like
So, hi, I'm Charmaine.
And then we have the awesome Jenna.
Hi guys, I'm Jenna Vondell. I'm sure we'll introduce ourselves, what we do and everything as well.
We definitely will. So let's just talk about how we came about, because this has just happened behind the scenes. So what happened was all this social media outings of, domestic violence, sexual violence. We had Dutch Ravelli with the underage girls. We had Rodney P with the domestic violence. We had Vincent Rapp from Brixton with the historical rape. And we had Toyon Wayne and the Lani Good stuff. So I had a conversation with Charmaine saying, it's doing my head in. I can't cope. It's triggering. There's so much information out there. And then, Charmaine, what happened at your end?
Well, then I had already had a conversation when they had a conversation with me, which is Naomi. Sorry, I call it now. Had a conversation with Naomi, and Naomi was saying that she was in the midst of doing some form, having a meeting with someone in regards to doing a podcast. And I thought maybe we can put the two together and combine the two together. So then, hence, it goes over to Nay, who then brings in.
Yeah, so then I received a call from Charmaine, and I'd already been in talks with Kit from Aspire for You, who had introduced me to Jenna from That's All Media previously. And it's something that Kit and I had been speaking about for a good few weeks in terms of doing some sort of podcast to address these topics that we know are happening. We all see things online, and we might talk about them with our friends or with our families and our peers and stuff. But I haven't really seen a Birmingham podcast addressing the types of things that we're about to address for you on this podcast. So yeah, and then I spoke to Kit about it, and I'd mentioned Charmaine and Sarah, and I says to Kit, can you think of anybody else? And as I said it, I was already thinking of Jenna, and he was also thinking of Jenna. And so then the story goes over to Jenna.
And because we're all in a vibe. I literally been wanting to do like a podcast around DV for like the longest time. And I think I just needed that boot up the behind to go and do it. Because from my perspective, I feel like there's a lot of things that sort of don't really get thought about in terms of DV. And I mean, obviously, I know that, especially this year with lockdown and there being a huge rise in DV, I just feel like post DV, like once you're out of that relationship, where is the help? Like, what support is available for you? And I know here we're all kind of survivors of DV. So it just seemed like a natural thing to do, to just join up and actually just get this podcast started. So I'm very excited to be here, and very excited actually for the conversations that we're going to have, and just see what happens really.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. The pre-production conversations that we have had have been absolutely amazing and fun and exciting. So we have some great content. We're just going to introduce ourselves and tell you a little bit about ourselves. So I'm going to hand over to Naomi. Naomi, introduce yourself and tell us what you do, because you run an amazing service.
Thank you, Sarah. So as Sarah said, my name's Naomi Donald. You'll find my Instagram handles there in my name display. And I basically set up a CIC called PODS, which stands for protect our daughters and sons, and we are on a mission to protect all children and young people from abuse, criminality, and exploitation. And we aim to do this through education, empowerment, and encouragement. So we do a series of workshops. Sorry, I can hear a repeat.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, if anybody's playing the podcast on their phone,
It's me. It's all right. I'll bear with me.
Turn it down. Sorry.
I'm trying.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, we've had we work with young people, one-to-one mentoring, workshops in schools, children's homes, and really what we're aiming to do is really change how we respond to domestic abuse. And then other than that, I'm also a pioneer and authentic voice coordinator for Safe Lives, who are a nationwide domestic abuse charity. And I do lots of work with them. And some of my recent work has taken me to the Well Festival in London, which is the Women in the Well Festival on International Women's Day, speaking on stage in front of 2,000 people with Dr. Camilla. And things like Ian Wright came to my house.
What happened?
So pre-lockdown, Ian Wright came to my house. So I had done an interview with Charlie Webster on Talk Radio, talking about young people and young people and peer abuse, how it's like, an invisible crime. We're going to address that on a later show. And then Charlie had said to me after that interview that she'll keep in touch with me, and if there's any further work that comes along, she will let me know. And then some producers had got in touch with her about Ian Wright, who was making a documentary exploring his life and his childhood and how domestic abuse impacted him as a young man and how that impacts him as an adult. And I was put in contact with him. We had a conversation, and we just both felt it was really important, as him being a black male and me being a black female, and both Jamaican heritage, we had a lot of similarities. But I'm not going to talk too much on that, and I'll save that. And I think I just want to clear, there might have been a bit of confusion in my long post on Facebook yesterday, where I was talking about the Ian Wright documentary and also mentioning hips. Sometimes I go on like these long rants on my Facebook post, but yeah,
it's all right. We all do.
Yeah. Other than that, I do a few other things, but I think we'll save it for another show because I just feel like I'm just.
Can I just say that is like so awesome, and like the stuff that you do is wicked. And I know you've been my voice went all funny then. I've still got these like weird COVID symptoms, so my voice goes sometimes. But I've been making some weird ass noises. But yeah, like you've also been doing some stuff in Manchester with us as well, haven't you? Like the past.
Oh yes.
Good.
Yeah, recently partnered with That's All Media and Aspire For You with Kit, and have been delivering a workshop in a school in Manchester to year 7 boys called Finding Your Superpowers. And although it was finding your superpowers, and it's all about like finding out who you really are and being the expert of your own life and learning how to stand strong in your resilience, because you're going to get so many temptations through life and end up in like, certain situations. But we and we explored how through relationships and what that means from a male perspective. And it was really an eye-opener and a whole lot of fun, because I think when we're talking about domestic abuse, a lot of the times we tend to talk to the girls about it, but obviously boys are just as important in the conversation. So that was really refreshing and nice. So thank you, Sarah.
And then we have the wonderful, awesome Charmaine.
God, why you do that? Oh Lord, I'm not ready.
Do you know what, right? Charmaine's so little bit. If you've never seen her in real life, she's gone. Okay, so if you've ever seen Charmaine in real life, she's so little bit, yeah, and she just makes me laugh all the time, and I've known her for several years, probably not as long as you, Naomi, but I've known her for such a long time. So we'll wait for her to come back, and then she can talk to us about what she does. Oh, she's here. So
everybody knows me with technical stuff. You know what I'm like. I am absolutely I press the wrong button, then I just disappear and thin air.
So Charmaine, tell us about what you do with Outcast Productions. I just want to say, yeah, that Charmaine used to run, she's going to resurrect it at some point, this amazing comedy production of which I was part of. And run and edit and produce these amazing comedy sketches, right? If you go and look at some of the archive of these sketches, they were absolutely hilarious. Some of Birmingham's greats in there, Smash is in there, Tanisha White's in there, I'm in one.
Yeah.
I'm in one. Right. Charmaine, tell us about what you do in relation to Outcast Productions and what you're currently doing now. And can I also say her film is going to debut very soon, so stay tuned.
It just makes me feel hot. Hi, right. I'm Charmaine Quayle. I do my company is Outcast Productions, which is the CIC. As Sarah did say, thank you very much for the wonderful introduction, my dear. First of all, we started a good couple of years ago doing comedy skits, and then certain things happened and it sort of got put onto the back shelf. I lost my little bit of my confidence, came back again and decided to do something in regards to domestic abuse, because I was going through some counselling at the time, and then it sort of birthed from there, to be fair. So what birthed from there was the Y event. And the Y event is it's an event that sort of looks at and answers the question of why people stay in domestic abuse relationships through dramatisation, spoken word and dance. And we have key speakers who come along and speak on the actual show, which Naomi Donald is one of the people who speaks on the show. And another lady called Janika Cartwright, who also speaks on the show in regards to their experiences of what they came through and how they survived and why they stayed as well. Our next debut will be in March, on the 12th of March at the Belgrave Theatre. So if you're interested, tickets are on sale now. Get your tickets now. Now. Buy your tickets now. It's going to be an amazing event, and that's me in a nutshell. And I'm doing a film to do with domestic abuse. There we
go. Is that amazing? She is that amazing. So let's give her a round of applause. She's part of the backing cohort of 2020, which was the COVID backing, which, you know, has been a bit challenging, but she's stuck with it and has absolutely been amazing. So let's celebrate greatness where it deserves to be celebrated. And now over to Jenna.
I'm actually
Are you on this side?
Yeah.
Jenna.
I was like, who's over there, man? Okay, nobody on that side. So yeah, I'm Jenna Vondell. Yeah, I started off as a singer-songwriter, went into media, have kind of like obviously had experiences of domestic violence myself. And now I do like literally so much, it's hard to even contextualize it. I do basically like operational management. I do like that involves things like festivals. So I managed the second stage of Simmer Down Festival, produced flyover show for the last one. I do lots of youth engagement, community engagement, and then I also I'm the director of That's All Media. So I'm just basically an all-round creative and geek. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. But yeah, I'm very interested in domestic violence, and like I said earlier, what do we need to do to have more conversations about the aftercare? Because for me, it's like, you know, just because the police have stopped or social services throughout your life, like what actually happens after there? There's like a lot of health implications that are involved. And I just feel like you just get left alone. And I've definitely had that experience where I've been failed so badly by a lot of the services. I really want to now have these conversations. I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I spoke to 50 plus social services workers, and yeah, it was really interesting to have a little bit of time to digest everything that's happened to me and now go back and try and teach and educate. So yeah, everything that I do is really all about helping people. And yeah, I'm very excited for all the stuff. I could literally go on. There's a lot that I do, but it's boring for a lot of people. So I'll just leave it at that.
Awesome. So that leaves me, the old troublemaker. But I'm being really good now. Good.
Really good.
Don't know me. You should. So I'm Sarah Amanda. I do quite a lot really, but okay, let's talk about me in this context. I am I've been in this field of sexual and domestic violence for, I'm going to show my age now, for about 20 years. I started off as a volunteer on a helpline in Nottingham, and I was one of the first cohorts of IDVAs, and I delivered training. I delivered the Freedom Programme. I've done quite a lot in the DV sector, or the social care sector. So I've worked with young people, women fleeing domestic violence, women who have been survivors of sexual violence. I go into schools as part of, is it the PHSE? Yeah, it is PHSE, isn't it? PHSE, delivering training on consent and CSC. Yeah, I've also delivered a program. This is how I met Naomi, through the youth violence program at UBC. I delivered a program presentations, couple of sessions on the female presence in gang violence. I made a film about it. And yeah, so currently now I'm a little bit more creative. I do writing. I've made a couple of films. Just a little plug here. My film, Where Is God Now, is currently on Apple TV. Go and check it out. I want to give a shout out to my gang, Mohammed T, Michael Ellis, who really brought the film together and made it happen. And also, I just want to say, I'm looking at the photo now. R.I.P. Tilly, who was our lead actress, and she passed away during the lockdown. And big shout out to Andre Pierre, who was our male actor. So yeah, that's what I do now. I'm really excited about some of the conversations that we've been having, and I just want to make a disclaimer. When the flyer went out, we did have Dylan Duffus on the flyer, and I think it would be disingenuous of us not to explain why he won't be joining us as a guest. Obviously, how long ago was it? Maybe a few weeks ago, there was a flyer put out by West Midlands Police. It was subsequently taken down, and we did invite Dylan to come and do an interview. However, he was advised, he initially agreed, and then he was advised not to come on and talk about it. So that's that. We're not going to talk about it anymore. It's there, it's done, and we're going to move on. We have got some amazing discussions, but we must shout out to our sponsors. So the sponsors, and we do have some giveaways, so please do get involved. Our sponsors tonight are, and if I get it wrong, Rashida, cuss me out. It's okay. What's that mean, right? I really won't mind. Shada Styles. She did my hair. So if you think my hair is looking fly, yeah, it's done by Shada. My girl. I just gotta say, before we go on, this is the most amazing hairdresser in the whole of Brom, right? I rang her in tears, okay, because the first hairdresser that did my hair, it was just a sham. Yeah, and I had a film tour. Literally, I rang her at about 7, 8 o'clock at night, crying because I'm a drama queen. And literally, she was at my house in the morning sorting out my crown. So just a shout out to her. She's offering a updo, down to, or feed through. I have no idea what those mean, but do join in. And then we have Charmaine, who's your sponsor.
I have Miss Justice, who's going to be Alicia Justice, who's offering a massage or a head massage as well, body massage. She's amazing. She's also one of my people who are on the actual program with me with the backing program. She's doing a short film as well. She's kindly offered us a massage or a head massage. So anybody who wins any of those, you got a choice basically: head massage or a body massage. Up to you. 35 minutes you're gonna get. There you go.
Oh wow, good. That's good. That's really good. And thank you, massive thank you to our sponsors, considering we've literally just put this together in the last few weeks. That's really, really nice of them. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone that's tuning in and commenting. We have Simone, we have Shazar, we have, those are the only comments I can see. So just thank you for tuning in. Please share and let people know, and then we'll do a random generator thing. I might have to text me my son's missus to ask her how I do it, because I don't know, because I'm a Luddite. So yeah, thanks to everyone that's tuned in. So yeah, how this came about, obviously we said there's all that stuff that was going on during lockdown. And the scary thing about it, yeah, is that there is a website called Counting Dead Women, right? I urge everybody to go and have a look and see the graphic tragedy that domestic violence is, and how many women die in a year as a result. We know that 1 in 3 women on
average 1 in 3
on average 1 in 3, but we know it's probably higher than that, right? Because those are the reported ones that experience domestic violence. So that's directly or indirectly. So you can be a victim, a direct victim, or you can be a friend, you can be a sibling, you can be a family member, such as a parent, and you will experience it too. We'll talk about vicarious trauma of domestic violence. So during the lockdown, national charities saw a massive surge in domestic violence, you know, in terms of people calling helplines. Now, that just wasn't for men, for women, that was also for men, right? So whilst we talk about domestic violence primarily affecting women, and we're all survivors here, it also affects men. I think it's 1 in 7 men. Again, those are the ones that report. So I'd probably say it was a lot higher. And so what they were finding, there was a surge, yeah. Helplines were getting more calls from women, but also men were calling services. And I think what's really sad about what was happening to men is they were sleeping in tents, parks, cars, sofas, and this is all happening in the middle of a pandemic. So the impact of like mental health, the impact of the fact of the threat of violence, you know, women weren't getting respite where they might be able to go and get counselling, or they'd be able to go, you know, on the school run, they might be able to talk to the teacher. All interventions, primary care, secondary care, and obviously third sector interventions weren't happening because everything locked down. And so my heart goes out to anybody that's experiencing domestic violence, even now at the holiday season, because we know that rises as well. And then traveller women and migrant women. So it's a real problem. Go for it, Naomi.
Yeah, can I just add on the back of that? Obviously, like we're highlighting a lot about women and men, and obviously, I just don't want to forget like the children and young people who are also experiencing it, and who also saw you know, a rapid rise in escalations of incidents that were happening during the pandemic. And it's like when a lot of the world stopped moving, especially the first one in March, where a lot of people were actually following the guidelines and staying in their house. A lot of young people were actually out, and I think we've seen a few reports of that, like in places like you know, in the general media. And again, going back to the name of the podcast, Hidden in Plain Sight, what we were seeing on the front line in our communities, it was a lot more than what was actually shown in the paper. So that's something we can obviously discuss a little bit later or in a later show as well. But yeah,
I think just on the back of that as well, Naomi, I think that people don't really like link these things to some of the wider crime that's going on. So we do a lot of stuff on the county lines and youth violence. So we got commissioned by West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner to develop a channel this year called On Point WM. So for the whole year, we've made it really community based. We've really, asked people what they want to see on there. We've developed the brand and everything. So that's collaboration again with That's All Media and Aspire. And just some of those conversations we've been working with people talking about ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences. And it's just really interesting because I think that people don't think that it's their problem, even though they care and they might want the story. Yeah. They don't think it doesn't affect me, so who cares? But actually, that's where I think as communities, we actually really need to start being a bit more, switched on, because, when there's something happening in the home, young person might not be in the home. They might want to go out on the street. They get considered really quickly. Then they get sucked into the whole county line stuff. Then it's just like on the road, and then it's just a downhill spiral. It's just, we're all responsible. We're all accountable for, making sure that our communities are safer. And just on the point that you said, Sarah, about mental health as well. So this year we've been developing another thing called Heal Hub. So we're actually paying for 6 free sessions of therapy for young people. So we've worked with 100.
It's needed.
It's so needed, and I think the duration between young people actually getting therapy, it's too long. So throughout lockdown, we've been providing that support, and it's been really invaluable for them. So yeah, there's a lot.
I think some of those some of the waiting times that we have in services is ridiculous. But I think it's because, and I'm just going to go on a little rant here, because government and austerity and pitting services against each other. So you will have a specialist service. I think, Naomi, we were having this conversation about what makes a service a great service when dealing with specific issues, right? So domestic violence and sexual violence, those are specific specialist services. So service delivery has to come from people that are trained. This is their bread and butter. And what we find, housing services are delivering domestic violence support, some random group, not that I'm knocking anything, but you have a random group that may be dealt with, I don't know, coffee mornings and mums and tums, and suddenly they're now the services that are offering counselling young, and they're not specialists. We've trained them,
And that's what the key is. I think it is all about not just the training, but the understanding, because I have this weird thing about training. Like, if somebody's going to do a day or half a day of training, that's really not going to give them a whole lot. It's just going to touch the surface, give them a brief introduction into domestic abuse or sexual violence. As Sarah just said, you've got experts that have trained and studied and live, eat, sleep, drink this every day. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then on the back of that as well, we've got when we break it down further, we've got all the cultural competencies that we need to look at within these services. So then the services then that are being commissioned don't necessarily fit. They're not necessarily fit for purpose for us. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like, we need to make sure that some of the smaller organizations, culturally competent, those that are trained and experts within their own right and within their own field, are actually getting the funding to keep going.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast, that whole funding.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I was going somewhere in my head of what.
Yeah. But Charmaine, you did something really amazing during the lockdown, and I was privileged to be on one of your Y events. So tell us what you did, because the thing is, right, is I think, and this is why this podcast is so important, because it is hidden in plain sight. We all know somebody that's experienced abuse, or we've experienced it directly, but Charmaine did something quite magical with the Y event. So tell us what you did, Charmaine, because you were really committed as well, like every Friday.
Yeah, from the beginning of lockdown, because we couldn't do the Y event, we were supposed to do it in April. So because we couldn't do it, I felt like because you were hearing so much on the news, that there was something that needed to be sort of like something to be put in place to help people. Maybe first of all, it was sort of just to have the guests speak, like people from the show involved, just to come along and speak about what, you know, why they got involved in the Y event, and what was their experience, whether it be that they've gone through it all themselves. It was just everybody, all the artists who were involved in it. And then I started getting other people coming on, like having guest speakers as yourself, professionals coming on and sort of giving advice, because a lot of people started following the Y event page, and gaining key information from people, because hearing somebody else going through whatever it is that they're going through privately sort of makes you realise that you're not alone, so to speak, in a sense. So it helped quite a lot of people. We continued on up until, I think it was up until September, October, and then because I've got other commitments outside of it, we sort of had to sort of like put it on hold. It's not on the shelf, it's on hold for now. But there's advice and there's signposting for people to go to if they need to go to people. But it helped a lot of people, and a lot of people came to me directly afterwards. I know on the fact of, because of the show, there's been at least 3 people who have left their partners due to the fact of the show, because they've seen, you know, they gain information from the show, and empowerment as well. I think a lot of people got empowerment from it as well. So it helped a lot of people, and even if it helps just one person, it's helped that one person to get out of the situation that they were in, and now they're in a better place and on that road to recovery and doing something, you know, without harm to their life from whoever the perpetrator may be.
I thought it was very brilliant and very poignant. There was I didn't tune into all of them, but there was one particular one that I tuned into, and my God, I cried, man. I cried real eye water when this woman was telling her story, and I think I cried not because it was so much that I could relate, because I'd never been through what she's been through. I cried because of this woman's strength, right? I cried because of her tenacity and her ability to tell her story, you know. And the way she told her story, right? And we'll maybe get to this in this show, the way she told her story, in no way did she attack the perpetrator. She just told her story. And I think that's such a strength, because the natural reaction, someone do you something, let me attack them, but she didn't do that. This man almost took her life. You know, literally. It was the what was her name, Charmaine? Janika, that was stabbed.
She was pregnant with her baby.
When she was pregnant, you know, and this woman's fight, like, to stay alive. I've never seen bravery or courage like that in my entire life, and I was just totally blown away. And I remember watching it, and literally tears were just falling, because I was just like, wow, what a woman. So it'd be really nice to get a podcast at some point. So check this out, so during COVID, because I wanted to go and do some fact checks, because we know how the media can be a little bit scaremongery and clickbaity at this present time, like with the 5G and the vaccines and everything.
Gosh, I forgot about 5G. Oh my God.
The 5G. I was just trolling people through lockdown.
Sorry, before you move on, Sarah, I think based on what you were saying before, someone's asked what cultural competences in everyday language, and any tips on measuring competence? Go for it, Naomi.
Being as I said it, I'll just answer that. In terms of cultural competency, I'll just give you a quick example. So you go through a traumatic incident, or you go for counselling or therapy, you're Black, you walk into your therapist room, and it's a middle-aged white woman who has no understanding of your cultural background. So, you know, they might not understand like the Jamaican culture or Jamaican heritage. So once you start to speak to this counsellor or therapist about what it is you've been through, what tends to happen is the therapist ends up asking you a lot of questions to clarify their understanding, which is fine, because trying to clarify things that they don't understand about your culture. So when we say cultural competency, we mean services that understand the culture behind a person as well, and look at the intersections of a person. And so like the intersections would be, if we were to take myself as an example, I'm a female, single mother, came from a low socio-economical background, marginalised community, affected by youth and gang violence, domestic abuse. They are all my intersections. So when a therapist comes to work with me, or any service comes to work with me, they need to look at all of those different parts of me and understand what kind of therapeutic support I will need in all of those areas to help me move forward, if that makes sense. So basically for me now, going counselling, I went to a lot of Western counsellors, which were great. I still got a lot from it. However, when I found African-centered therapists, such as Patty Gift Therapy, and a therapy that I did with Restoring Queens with Rosemary and John Campbell, it was a different feeling because I was working with people that already understood my culture, so it was a lot easier for me to be open about some things that I'd never spoken about, like the shame and stigma that's attached with domestic abuse. And
Naomi, just based on that as well, I mean, because I've had similar experiences in terms of my own story. Like, we went to court and I spent like 2 years in court, and that was a big thing even for me, just like, where's the cultural competence in courts? Because if you think about that whole process, you have a social worker involved. They only spend a very, very short amount of time with you, and they've got to compile a document they're going to present to a judge, which is ultimately going to, tell your story. And if they don't get that right and they miss certain things, it's like, and then you've got the same thing, a lot of judges are from backgrounds that don't really relate to ours. And then it's like, how are you going to make an informed decision? And I know obviously judges are supposed to be fair and stuff, but if they don't have that cultural understanding, then it's not a fair outcome. So I think there's so many conversations around this. We've also had another comment from Shazar. So she's asking, what do you do when you're witness to DV, but the abused person doesn't want to leave the abuser? As I have a neighbour who's suffering DV. She kicks him out for a few days, but then she lets him back again. So how do you support a person in a situation like this? I'm sure we've all had these experiences, guys. I'm sure we've all been there as well. Well, we've all been there. It's a difficult one, isn't it? I remember my neighbour got so angry with me because I kept letting my ex-partner back. And it's really, the whole Coronation Street storyline as well has kind of, I think, done an okay job of, apart from dying at the end, which I think is kind of a bit of a disservice, because they should have Coronation Street in 20 years' time when he's still on the scene, because that's the reality of it, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's really, really difficult. Why do women stay?
I think what we have to look at, is that most times, let's say it's two. Okay, so let's say women they love the perpetrator. They just want the abuse to stop, right? They love this person. And I don't think we can take that away. You can't take away the fact that this person, because you have to, I think in order to understand why a woman stays, we have to understand the process or the character of a perpetrator, right? So before a woman speaks, there's usually 35 incidences of domestic abuse. When we think of domestic abuse, majority of the time people think of kicking, slapping, punching, raping. Yeah, that's what they think of. They don't think of psychological abuse. They don't think of emotional abuse. They don't think of financial abuse. They don't take any of that into consideration. So a woman will stay, or a man will stay, because they love the person, right? And we might say, how can you love somebody that's horrible to you? They didn't start off horrible.
Exactly.
You don't go on a date with someone and they just whack you in your face. You don't go on a date with someone and then maybe 2 weeks later they start a smear campaign about you. Do you know what I mean? That's not what happens. Yeah, you're lured into, it's grooming. And when we understand what grooming is about, so grooming is about trust, building an emotional relationship to manipulate and exploit, right? So when we see these things are happening, they're happening under the surface, yeah, especially if you've got children involved. It's even more difficult. You've got financial commitments together, you've bought a house, you're married, you've been living together, you are constantly being told that you're never going to find anyone as good as the perpetrator. You've got severe mental health issues. I mean, you're mad. You're crazy. It's all in your head, right? So all these things are happening. Then there's all the other stuff. It's very difficult. And where are you going to go? Where are you going to help? So and the thing is, contrary to popular belief, most people think that feminists are like, leave him, he's trash. Yeah, we do that. We do say leave, and we do say he's trash. But contrary to popular belief, we also look at how women, if they choose to stay, because it's their choice, self-governance, autonomy, self-efficacy, yeah, how you can manage those situations and what safety tactics you can put in place to almost cope with the situation. But if it's, have a safety plan, give information, and let that person know that if ever they need any support, if ever they need refuge or a place to stay or to get out and leave, then there's someone available to do that. But it's the woman's choice, and we have to respect that.
What advice would you give to men in that same situation? Because, like with women, I think we always advise female victims or, to leave and talk to somebody and stuff. And we know that males, number one, they probably don't even identify that what's happening in their relationship is a form of abuse. When we look at the control and coercion that can often come from females in a relationship. And then in terms of, like you said at the beginning, it was found that men during lockdown that were experiencing abuse at home were leaving, and because they had nowhere to go, like where women have refuges, so because they had nowhere to go, they're ending up sleeping in cars or on the street or at friends' houses. So
I think the same for men. I think the barriers for men is sometimes that it is quite physical, but it's quite rare, right? So I'm not saying it doesn't happen, it does, but it's rare. The abuse that men usually are subjected to by women is usually psychological, and it's financial, right? So it's very different. It can be physical as well. And I give the same advice. Okay, we do have some links to where men can get help. I give the same advice. Have a safety plan. Have someone you can talk to. Know the services that are out there that you can access and get support. It's also quite difficult because when a man talks about being sexually violated by a woman or being domestically abused by a woman, there's a lot of shame around that. Like, well, yeah, especially in our community, yeah. When we think of society, it's very patriarchal. So when we're talking about men being abused, and most men, if they look back over a relationship, there probably was one person that abused them. But they brush it off. They don't think it's abuse. They don't know it's abuse, right? And there's an element of shame. It's like that male pride, like, how can I be being abused? Like, so, and then
there's shame and stigma attached with women, isn't there? So it's like shame them for men must, I can't say verbatim, but I can only imagine that it must feel 10 times more powerful or 10 times worse. And like, you know what I mean? Just that level of shame, because there's a lot of shame and stigma attached to it for a female. And in our communities, it's even worse.
I think for men as well, because like, okay, so if you're with a guy that's like massive and you're a little woman, and and there was that, oh my gosh, that story where the guy had literally 10 days, he was 10 days away from death. You remember that one, Naomi? And when we did because I watched the documentary, anything to do with domestic violence, I watch, yeah. And when they did the documentary, what this girl was putting, this woman was putting this man through was just horrific. Yeah. So I think it's important that we recognize, yes, men can be victims, men are victims, and the safety plan is still the same. The safety plan is still the same as it is for women. What would I say to a man that is being abused? Bro, leave. Right? Stay
There's a
safe.
lot. I'm sorry to interject, Sarah. During when I did the Y event show, a lot of people came to me, including guys, came to me and said, obviously privately, that that's something that I've experienced. And when I've said, like, because what I want to do in future is to do another Y event, but from a man's perspective, so that we hear their stories. But what I've found is that none of the men want to come forward and physically stand there and tell their stories publicly. They're quite happy to tell me the story and then it be portrayed for them, but no one wants to come forward and say it out loud. Do you know what I mean? That, well, yeah, I've gone through this, I've experienced this woman's done this and that and the other to me. And it is a shame that society has got this stigma to it. I think even worse when it comes to, like, within the black community, because black men are supposed to be, we are strong, we are man, do you know what I mean? We don't do them things, we don't have no gal going on with them things, do you get me? So it's like they're trying to live up to a certain type of stereotype. But hopefully, I mean, what I will do is in the future we'll be able to do something like that. But men do need to come forward, and there is help out there as we've got, there's information I'm going to give later on.
I've actually seen, like, conversations on Facebook over the last, like, especially since lockdown happened, and I find there's been a few black men that have actually come out and actually said that they've actually been abused as kids by females, which I thought was completely, like, brave of them. And yeah, like, it's just something that you just don't really think of. And I think if you've had experience of being abused as a child, you can really normalize it, and it doesn't feel like anything did happen to you. So I think that you have to get to a stage in your life where you're like, actually, that wasn't right what happened, and you have to find the right space and time to actually, come to a point in your life where you can actually feel free to talk about it. Yeah, I've had those conversations sometimes, and I think it's really, positive that they are actually speaking up. So
and can I just add to your last point as well? Like, I agree with that. Like, a lot of things that happen in childhood are normalized. A lot of trauma that we experience is so normalized that you do just carry on, and it's only when you start then as an adult either being triggered or reflecting on things that happened in childhood. It's like, well, what happened? And when we look at the statistics for young people, we see that in terms of domestic abuse, when we're looking at relationships, teenage relationships, the statistics the numbers are really, really close. It's like 46% of females experience abuse in their relationships, while 44% of males experience domestic abuse. That's the under 16s, you know what I mean? So it's like, as I was saying, once they get older, these males may well go on to experience different forms of abuse in relationships. However, because they've normalized it from childhood, or a lot to, could be to do with the shame, the stigma, and all the other barriers that are thrown up, then they might never say anything again. Hence why they are not included in statistics. So when we go back to the number of 1 in 6 or 1 in 7 men experiencing domestic abuse in their lifetime is probably higher, and the same for the women, 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 women experiencing domestic abuse in their lifetime, and we probably know verbatim that is higher, because there's 4 of us on this.
We've all experienced it, right?
Yeah, so
we've all experienced it, and I think that we have to have these candid conversations. We have to talk about it more openly, not from, oh my God, he did this to me, or she did this to me, but we have to talk about the impact that it's had. The one thing with perpetrating domestic abuse, it's learned behavior. Do you know what I mean? It's something that is learned. When we look at, because I come from a radical feminist perspective, right? So when we look at the disproportionate amount of gender-based violence against women and girls, and then we look at women perpetrating violence against men, when we look at male narcissists and female narcissists, there's a massive difference. I think 75% of narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths are male. And then we get the rare ones, the 25%, which are women. So when we're looking at gender-based crime, collectively, globally, it is disproportionately against women. Rape is a weapon of war. CSE is predominantly towards girls, whereas when we get the criminality aspect, it's towards boys, right? So we have to be really clear. And sometimes when I'm having these conversations online, we'll be talking about female domestic violence, and a man will come in and go, well, what about males? No, that's not the conversation of the time. The time is about women. But we recognize it does happen to men, and it can sometimes be like a bit of a hidden crime when it comes to men. Men don't want to come forward, especially in the Black community. They don't want to come forward and talk about. That's why when guys do come forward, I really try to support them and get behind them. And we do have a potential man that will be coming on the show to talk about his experience of domestic abuse. And I think that's really brave and courageous of him because of what he went through. And also because of how we look at, I mean, we have this thing. And every time you say, if you want to trigger anybody on social line, particularly men, just put in toxic masculinity. And they just go, boom. Yeah. But it is a thing. And it hinders and disables men having the ability to recover and convalesce. It also propels this stereotype that men are strong and nothing doesn't happen to them, and they're not victims of sexual abuse, and they're not victims of domestic violence or narcissistic abuse or anything like that. But it actually does happen. And I think by having the conversation, we open up room to unpack layers and to discuss things and to also point people. And I think the beautiful thing about this podcast is we've all got the commitment to help and to say and to signpost. You can also ask us questions privately and anonymously by emailing us at askhips. So that's ask, A-S-K, at H-I-P-S. Did I spell that right, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, askhips@mail.com. askhips@mail.com.
Okay, so if you want to ask us anything privately, we're all practitioners. We can signpost you to wherever you need to go. So feel free, you can talk to us anonymously. And that's what we're here for. We've been through it. We work in the services. We are experts in our fields, and we're here to help as well. Now, moving on, guys. The Leonie Goods. Is it Tion Wayne situation? Now, this came up about 2 or 3 months ago, so it's old tea, it's not new tea. But I followed it, right?
Can you explain, sorry, who they are for those that...
Okay, so Leonie Good is a YouTuber. She was on Black Chat, right? Tion Wayne is a drill rapper. I watched one of his songs the other day with Mist. I can't remember what it's called, but it was there. It was just weird. It's a good tune. Check it out. So he's an up and coming. If you can remember, him and Heavy One were fighting on the plane to Dubai, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm not writing or reviewing scripts, when I should be working, right, not writing courses or doing uni work, I'm following all the tea on YouTube. So basically, Leonie Good is I feel really sorry for Leonie as well. She was a YouTuber, and basically she did a story time where she talked about a rapper, UK rapper, and how he treated her, right? Now, if you follow this thing, it's really sad. Right, so she's a little bit older than him. He's 21, she's 27. She talks about how he met her, how he treated her when he first met her, and this, that. Anyway, cut a long story short, there's an allegation that he finessed her out of £8,000. Hear what he finessed her for. Not invest in his business, for a Rolex watch. These scumbags, right? for Garms, for Giuseppe's. Giuseppe, are they Giuseppe's? I'm not there. For some Giuseppe. What a trap!
I have.
Listen, I'm not even gonna go there yet. But basically, that's what he finessed her out of stuff. Yeah. So she tells this story. Bless her little cotton socks. She then makes a song called "I'm Sitting on a Piece of Bad Boy Information," but the information is clear, right? It's a train wreck. It's a train wreck. I'm not even gonna lie. It's just like, yo, sis, what are you doing? Right? But I get it. I get what she's doing. And then he comes out, he makes a statement. And you know what? The wickedest thing about it is what I see in the statement that he made is what a lot of perpetrators do, right? She's mad. She's obsessed. She's crazy. She's mad. She's stalking him. She put out receipts. He put out voice notes. And this is where this guy proved who he was. Threatened to release her nudes. Threatened to release her nudes, which is just tack, right? And revenge porn is a crime. Yeah, revenge porn is a crime. So number one, don't feel no way, sis. If you want to send nudes, send your nudes. Be bad, do your thing. But just remember, when they get released, he is going to have to answer for the crime. But that's what he did, and she put the receipts out of where he was threatening her. But I think,
and didn't he go and smash her mum's window as well, or smash a window to her house or something?
There was allegations of some reprisals from, because obviously everybody was talking about the fact that she'd exposed him. And I think that brings us back to social media and how social media can be used, right? It can be a good thing or a bad thing. Like when Rodney P was exposed, it forced him into acknowledging that he had perpetrated, and there's a conviction, so I can talk about this. He had perpetrated violence against his pregnant baby mother, right? He beat her up while she was pregnant, and another woman. And this man's adamant, I didn't hit that one. I hit them too, but I didn't hit that one. Yeah, you did, right? So how social media can be used. And then there was all the Dutch Valley stuff, and then there was the Vincent Rat stuff. It's quite triggering for survivors, I think. But is social media a good thing to do to expose a perpetrator?
No.
That's a tricky one. It's a very,
very good question.
You know, the other, oh, sorry, go on.
Sorry, carry on. No,
I was just going to say that there's also a lot of stuff where females actually, and I don't want to take this away from anybody that's had like domestic violence, but we know that there's also women that do cry wolf and they say that they've been attacked, and that's another thing of mine where I'm like, oh, it's really difficult. So on one hand, it's like, oh, yeah, I think it's hard. Go on, Sean, as you say your bit.
No, I would personally say, obviously, I don't believe that it is the right sort of arena for you to put anything on social media. One, if it does go to court, it can have things that get thrown out of court due to the fact of you saying things on a mainstream sort of place, and it sort of diminishes what the person has said in a sense. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think in a sense. So I don't feel that it is the arena to turn around and share it. It should be dealt with the proper authorities, and that's with the police.
And you see, and I agree with that as well. However, I'm going to look at
afterwards if you want to turn around and share. Then that's
I think after conviction, say what you like.
Yeah, after the fact.
Well, I'm gonna differ with everybody here, because what I'm gonna say is when we've got perpetrators or people who are victims of crime from certain individuals, and they may have gone and reported it to the police. Like, one of the training packages that I deliver is on the invisibility of victims of crime or sexual violence. They go and report to the police. However, it's not handled. So then what do? You sit at home. You've got to sit with the trauma, the shame, the stigma, and you've got to sit with all that yourself. everybody's on social media. We're on social media every day. So if one day you pick up your phone and you're just like, you know what, let me just put this on blast because it's going to make me feel better, even though it's probably not going to make you feel better in the long run, but in that time, yeah, it's a trauma reaction, a trauma response.
That's the key point. It's a trauma reaction.
Exactly. And so we can just finish in terms of where we've got perpetrators like Vincent Ratt, who had been, or allegedly, because he's not been taken to court, I believe, he's allegedly committed all these disgusting crimes against women and young girls, all these disgusting crimes of sexual violence. And I believe in cases like that, where we have repeat perpetrators walking around the street, they should be named and shamed if the authorities are not going to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's kind of like, all right, then, if you've got the fight and you have the mental health support and the right people around you, like somebody like me has, like I can do things the right way because I'm supported by Safe Lives. I've got some amazing friends and I know a lot around domestic abuse. A lot of the women that come to me because they're going to services and they're not getting the right support or help, and they're feeling alone, they're feeling trapped. And then, like, you know, let's not forget, I think the average is 3 women a week commit suicide due to domestic abuse. Do you know what I mean? And suicide rates in men are a lot higher as well. And so it's like one of them ones I don't agree with sharing that on social media. Let's just get that straight. I don't agree with it, but I understand why people.
We're getting a lot of comments, guys. So
I just want to jump in quickly and say, yes, there was major hype. Okay, his whole life was weird. Okay, that was weird. And also, I think that gaslighting. Okay, this is what I want to say. I want to say this is a really important point. Perpetrators are narcissists, right? Not all narcissists are violent perpetrators. They're also covert, right? Because you don't know they're a narcissist until you've been with them and then you wake up and go, oh my God, what is going on, right? That happens to anybody. Abuse is nothing to do with intelligence. It's nothing to do with were you dumb, were you this, were you vulnerable. It can happen to anybody, right?
Yeah.
The thing with perpetrators is, and this is where I think in us wanting to get revenge or us wanting to have a major response. And the thing with a trauma response, it's this. It's a trigger and a strong emotional reaction. And then we react. That's what a trauma response is. You're triggered by something, you have a strong emotional response, and you think, I'm gonna say something, right? But here's the thing. And I can't remember the name of the guy that you sent to me, Charmaine, but it's that guy. He nailed it for me, right? He says that the thing that these people relish in is the silent smear campaign, right? So you can be telling the truth. You go on social media to tell your experience, to expose this person and to say what they are about. Remember, this person usually has an amazing public image. They have all their friends and followers and flying monkeys and defenders and new supply and, you know, and you come on there and you're like, this is what he did to me, right? Straight away, she's mad, she's crazy, she's obsessed, she's a stalker, she's nuts, she's this. You play into that narrative, right? People then look at you as the victim and you automatically slip into perpetrator. Because now you're calling them out. My advice to that is, sis, accept that, take the L, accept it, move on, keep it moving. Because it's almost like in trying to tell your truth. That's why I really rate, is her name Jenka, who told her story. She never once shamed the perpetrator. He was shamed just because of his actions, just because of what he did to her. And the thing with abuse is that you don't always get a conviction. Leonie Good ain't got a conviction for being finessed out of $8,000. Yeah. True. And I believe he did fraud her. Whether she gave it to him as a gift or whatever, he said it in his post. She was good to have around. She was of benefit to me. The minute you become a benefit to someone that you are not in a relationship with, an established relationship, and it's a situationship or an entanglement or friends with benefits, you are a commodity. You are being used.
It's true.
Very right? True. They are not going to give you closure. They do not care. They are not going to apologize. You are not going to get acknowledgement. And that's what Leonie Good said. She said, I wanted attention. I wanted acknowledgement. I wanted validation for who I was. She wanted to be regarded and she wanted an apology. Sis, it's never going to happen.
It's not.
And all you're going to do is make yourself look weird, obsessed, stalkish, bizarre, odd, creepy. Yeah, she's like, oh, he's blocked me. Yeah, of course, I would block you. I would block you. I would do the same thing, block. Do you know what I mean? Who wants to see that coming up in their timeline, being called out 24/7? The best thing to do when there's nothing to do, just let it go. Accept it, move on, count the loss, and like Ellen to liberation. That's my advice. Unless you know.
That is the best thing to do. That is. It's the hardest thing to do, though. It's the best thing to do, but it's the hardest thing to do. That's just keeping it real. You get me?
And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect.
None of us are,
People that know me from back in the day know that I had a complete and utter meltdown on social media about an ex-boyfriend. I had a complete meltdown, like literally, I just melted. I was just, every day I was at it, but I was in trauma. I had been attacked in my home, right? Not by him. I want to make that very clear. Not by him. He was initially very supportive, but secondary trauma. He was a secondary victim. He experienced vicarious trauma. We didn't know it at the time because I was in it. He didn't know what it was. We spoke about it many years later, and today we're good friends. Do you know what I mean? But avoid it. Don't do it.
No.
Journal. Rant to your friends.
Right.
But do you not feel like at the moment with social media, we're just living in this reactive society? We're reactive and we're not proactive. And that's what this is really about, like actually finding solutions, talking about things in a safe space. But yeah, I think we really do have to be careful with social media. Got some messages come through where Kit's saying social media allows more awareness of EV and builds wider conversations, but that's different to judgment, which should be for courts of law. We've had a lot of people really interested in some of the higher profile people you're talking about. I think Sammy said earlier about we can't be letting them exes back, cross. Does anybody know anything about the Stockholm syndrome?
Yeah, so Stockholm. So what you'll get sometimes with Stockholm syndrome, and I think we have to be really clear because we don't want to victim blame. And someone mentioned victim blaming. I do deliver a course in victim blaming. I just want to say anyway. So with Stockholm syndrome, you might get, and you get this because you got to understand.
But sorry, do you want to just clarify what that is for people that don't know?
Yeah, so being in a domestic violence relationship is akin to being a prisoner of war. You are subjected to various different tactics. Let me just say what some of those tactics are: gaslighting, projection, blame shifting, physical abuse, sexual abuse, coercion, what else? Smearing smear campaigns. Your mental health is questioned. I don't like, if you a thing that a perpetrator will try and do is attack your identity. So they will try and attack who you are as a person. The quickest way to shut a woman down is that whole Freudian philosophy, because that's what it is. It's not a psychology, it's a philosophy. She's hysterical. She's crazy. She's nuts. She's mad. She's got mental health issues. Who wouldn't?
She attacked me.
Who wouldn't if they're being abused? Who wouldn't if they're being gaslighted? Who wouldn't be nuts and crazy, right? And perpetrators like to set you up as well, right? They'll be really calm. You'll be kicking off. They'll tell your friends, they'll tell your family, they'll go on social media, they'll do all kinds of things. Who wouldn't be nuts and crazy? We're normal. I just want to say you're having a normal reaction, sis. You're having a normal reaction. If you want to be angry, you're having a normal, right? So you're being subjected to all these things, maybe to different varying degrees. Your psychology is being attacked. Your psychological well-being is being attacked. Your emotional well-being is being attacked. Your mental well-being is being attacked. Your physical, your financial, your spiritual self is under attack 24/7.
24/7.
Now, what happens is, when we have flight, I'll do this in another session, but in another class, but we have flight. I'm training now, right? So we have flight, fright. What is it?
Fight, flight, or freeze.
Right. So those are the three that we're talked about. But we also have two more: friend and fall. Right. So friending is where you think, you know what, if I can, and this is what happens. This is when you get the women running down the men, right? If I can just get them to be my friend, if I can just show them that I care, if I just show them that I trust, if I just show them that I love, if I just show them that I understand, if I just show them that I understand their trauma, if I just understand. So that's a friend. And that's where the Stockholm syndrome comes in. Right? That's where the Stockholm and a bit of fawning comes in, because you just think, let me give up. Because what's that saying? The path of least resistance. Let me not argue. Let me accept. Let me take all the blame. So you start assuming everything. You assume their baggage, their protection. Give it back. It's not yours. You don't give it. We'll chuck it in the bin. It's not yours. So that's where that comes from.
Yeah, the condition of the human brain, that's what you're on about, the condition of the human brain by the man. Is it the one that says that victims of domestic abuse can be are similar to prisoners of war, in terms of when you're a prisoner of war and you have this person who has this power over you, that has you locked up and controlled and tortured, until you then start befriending your torturer because you want to escape the situation, and then as Sarah just said, it becomes a norm, it becomes your reality. So
it totally does. And that's where, Naomi, we get minimizing. That's where we start minimizing what's happened to us, because, and I say us, and I mean us as collective, as women. All right, I'm not necessarily just talking about myself, because do you know what I mean? Yeah. So we're talking about, this is what happens to us. We start to minimize, we gaslight ourselves, and we self-blame. Right?
Yeah.
But that's because we're now defending, oh, maybe if I wasn't horrible to him. And the thing is, none of us are perfect, right? We all have toxic characteristics, and like, I'm sure if you spoke to some of my exes, they'd be like, why that woman? Right? It's one I can think about. Yeah. I said to him one day, do you think I was sent to am I your karma from a past life? And he was like, yeah, you really are my karma from a past life. But that's really different, because you can laugh and joke about it. You can poke fun at each other. You still remain good friends, even after the beef, even after the drama. That's very different. But when you're talking about perpetrators, there's usually no contact. You've usually had to run away from them, leave them, whatever, or have no contact with them. And what we have to understand, do not minimize that abuse. Do not minimize what that person has done to you. And I think, just going back to Liani Good, when I started looking through all the videos and the texts and everything, there were times when she was assuming all the blame. She was taking it all on board, and she just wasn't holding him accountable to the fact that he manipulated her, he exploited her, used her as a commodity. And the worst thing about it is when someone treats you like shit, right? You want an apology. You want to be acknowledged. Like, what was that? All I meant to you? Really? Seriously? Sis, you're never going to get it. Let it go. Get closure by yourself,
And it's interesting, because these conversations run really parallel to some of the conversations we've had with young people. Like, why do they stay on the road? Like, why are you shouting for? Like, why can't you get out of that? And it's interesting, because they stay because they think, oh, when I get to this point, when the money comes, and it's like, no, it won't. It's very similar to it's like it's not gonna get better. And like you said earlier, you cling on to those, you know, the good times, because it's not always bad, and you're just, you want the good times to be like all the time.
You feel like you can rescue someone and heal somebody, and then you other things that are going on because that person would have already isolated you or started isolating you from your family and friends. You're going to be exhausted because it's very draining mentally, both mentally and physically, being in an abusive relationship, and you're going to be
confusing as well.
So you're going to be losing your confidence because you're constantly being degraded and questioning yourself.
And that goes to men as well. I think that sometimes, like men, we think this is only happening to women. But what about a woman that repeatedly tells a man about his kids? Kids don't like you, they hate you, you're wockless.
That's a whole other show. That is a whole other show, man. I'm looking at the time and I'm aware of about 15 minutes left, and I feel like like we've had some amazing discussions, some deep discussions tonight, and I almost feel like the time has just gone so quickly. It's just away from us.
I just want to take the opportunity as well to shout out some people, because we've had some. I have to say, a man like Sammy, he'll love that. Then we've had Abigail. Thanks so much, Abigail, for your comments. Shazar as well. You've had some really interesting stuff to say. Maxine Brown, thanks for listening in as well. Simone Grant. There's quite a few people here. Charlie
Blue.
Hey Joanne, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
People definitely commenting on some of the stuff that you were saying, Sarah. Someone says Tion is a gaslighter.
He is. Nothing else. Gaslighter, horrible trash.
Mm-hmm.
Say that.
It's the same as Major Hype. His partner exposed him to.
She did.
Got exposed this year too. Yes, Shazar saying Major Hype as well now knew he was a weirdo. Atu saying not everyone gets convicted, which is really
true.
Which went back to our conversation earlier. There's just way too many of them. Trauma reaction is an important point, J. Ben Liu was saying. And then Shazar's also saying, I agree, name and shame to protect others. Gosh, there's so many comments. Thanks, guys, for all your messages. I'm reading them both from YouTube and Facebook. So wherever you're tuned in, thanks so much for listening to us. And then, she's also saying that it's a vicious cycle. And Jay, give back all the baggage and stop trying to carry it all. It's crazy.
Can I just add?
Yeah, go for it.
That a lot of people seem to think that when you're in a domestic abuse relationship, that it is like you are getting killed and murdered, and well, there is people who are being killed and murdered every single day, but it's not that you're getting beat every single day. This person is not like that every single day of the time that you're with them. That you can have they can be the most loveliest and charmingest of people on this planet, and I mean, talking from my own experience with my ex-partner, he was the Jack the lad, laughy jokey. You wouldn't think he would put a step wrong, but when things would go wrong and he didn't go the way that he wanted it to go, I would get the brunt of it, and he would be the most viciousest person that you could ever find. So don't ever think that it's the case that we're sitting in this situation that this person is continuously horrible with us all the time. He can be the most romantic and loving, and probably love bombing, which we'll talk about later on.
Yeah,
buy me things, do all the loveliest things, and everything will be fantastic for a couple of weeks. Then a little bit of it'll be a bit of cussing, and he's got something to say about me, little comments here, there, and everywhere, and then it will just progress on like a cycle. It's like a bit of a cycle going down, like a spiral cycle until it explodes. And then it's the tears, breaking down, crying, I'm sorry that I did this. I should have never put my hands on you. I love you. This is what happened to me as a child. Blah 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 blah. Because I would say now that's how they can be with you, and then because you feel sorry for them and you want to be the savior to them and you want to show them that you don't have to love like that. It doesn't have to be like that because that's how it was for your family or your parents or whatever. I can change you. I can do this, that, and the other to make it better, and you can't. So don't ever think you can't save everybody. You can't save everybody. And what my mum had to say to me is that you are not Nightingale. You are not there to be the saviour. The person has to want to get that help to get themselves out of the position of what they're in. They've got to want to change. And I just wanted to sort of share that because I think a lot of people have this misconstrued sort of kind of idea that people are sitting there in these relationships and they're just being thingy.
Trust me. And the victim blame, and like, you know, I've even heard people say, like, you know, like they say, like, with females, especially females that end up with guys who are in gangs. Yeah, I've heard man them say, "Wow, she knew he was in a gang. Why would she go with him? She knows he's a bad man." Blah, blah, blah. But hold on. Like, when we talk about youth violence, yeah, aren't we all in the same position in terms of we've all grown together, we all know each other? So, of course, that young lady is going to end up in a relationship with somebody who she's familiar with, someone who she knows, someone who is from her community, because that's who she trusts. So why are we blaming her as a female for going and then getting in a relationship with the male? And like Charmaine said, that male is going to come as Prince Charming. When I explain this to my young people on pods, how I explain it is like fairy tales. I say, the soldier a dream, it's all a lie, it is all a lie. That fairy tale story will have you out here falling for Prince Charming.
And he's a frog.
Because you think, that the bad person, the person who's going to treat you wrong, looks like the troll who sits under the bridge and jumps out and scares you. You have to think about the troll because you know who the troll is. You get me? You know where the troll is. But you see Prince Charming that comes looking handsome, looking pretty, or that princess for the males that might come along that looking like, you know, tick or whatever the youngsters say now, like, do you know what I mean? You fall into that, and then you know, that person, if they are a perpetrator, or unidentified perpetrator, the grooming process, the control and the coercion, then you start seeing Prince Charming slowly change into that troll, and you're thinking, hold on, but in the fairy tale it says happily ever after. Do you know what I mean? So absolutely right, man. We need to stop thinking that people are walking into these relationships knowingly. And another thing that I want to say is, like, you know, this whole red flags thing, because red flags are a real thing. You know what I mean? People will always say about somebody that they know has been in a relationship, well, didn't you see the red flags? I'm like, yo, the flags were invisible. They keep telling me about these red flags, but they were invisible because this person is so covert about it that I didn't realize it was happening. So,
do you know what's also really important about the red flags? Remember, you've gone through this grooming. So the cycle is this: idolization, devaluation, it's idolization, hoovering, devaluation, and discard, right? So that's the cycle of abuse, right? So basically, what will happen is in that idolization stage, right? Because that's the stage you always want to get back to. If you notice, when we'll say, can't we just go back to how things were before, right? When it was good. Idolization. So that's when, if it's a woman, she's throwing down that good pum-pum. If it's a guy, he's throwing down that good D, right? Y'all getting digmatized. We're all out here getting digmatized, falling, because it's amazing, right? It's great, tickling, everything. It's all great.
No comments.
I just want to say, if you're saying, like Charmaine is, you're at 4 o'clock in the morning.
No comments.
Wait. What did we say we're going to do?
Oh yeah.
So what happens is you're caught up in that cycle, right? You think everything's great. You think this person, blah, blah, blah. And then what happens is suddenly you're just nothing. Right? And you have hope. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe it will this. Maybe it'll that. Like, yo, look, I'm an old hen at this, right? I'm an old hen. So really, you should think, yo, Zara, you should know better. But it can happen to anybody. Anybody can get caught slipping. Yeah. You know, it's not. Don't feel embarrassed. No. You know,
and also, isn't it like, sorry to cut you, sorry, but we spoke before, didn't we, about the fact that women that have been through DV relationships then accidentally find themselves back in it again, and some of these people actually are ambassadors of DV, and that's, you know, it's you don't know what.
We have another show called Dating After Abuse, and we're going to really go into that as why you can be susceptible. But as for them flags, you ain't noticing them when that attitude is going down. We're just on the good juju, yeah, on that good juju thing. So
not.
But if
it's a real thing. So no, someone didn't actually believe that it was real the other day when I said that a woman could be dick whipped, because a woman could be dick whipped easily. Do you know what I mean? And you just turn fool over the things you do.
But what we have to remember is these people they're so good at it because they're going around. They've got. Listen, you're part of a harem, sis, right? They've got you're part of a. That's why they're so good at it, because they're just going around, right? Women and men. It happens, right? It's not just a woman thing, it's a man thing. And one of my toxic traits is, I confess, I'll just say openly, I weaponize sex. Do you know what I mean? That's my toxic trait. So I can hold myself accountable that I weaponize sex. Yeah, I can be very liberated, very free with it. And I just, whatever. But at the same time, that doesn't mean I cannot be susceptible to being stigmatized. Right, and it's a real thing, and I always used to say that it would never happen to me. It's not in my vocabulary, but it happened, and you just have to accept it and move on. And it is what it is.
Well, someone's asked a really good question, really, in relation to that. Charlie.
Hey, Charlie
has asked, do you ladies believe the theory that empaths attract narcissists?
That is a very good question.
I do. Yeah. I'm an empath. And narcissist.
The thing with empaths, right, is that we are natural people pleasers, right?
And healers and want to care and
nurturing. And here's the thing: if you have been a victim of, especially childhood trauma, however that looks, whatever that trauma is for you, and you haven't gone down the route of being so when you experience childhood trauma, you have two routes, right? You have the empath route, you have the narcissist route. You choose which way you go, right? Empaths typically tend to be people pleasers. They want to help people. They want to nurture people. They want to believe the best in people. They want to invest in people. They want to build people up, right? It's a coping strategy for trauma, okay? Whether we want to admit it or not, most empaths, they go within and they look within, they have experienced childhood trauma. The same with narcissists. Narcissists are made. They're not born. Psychopaths, maybe. Sociopaths are born. Narcissists are made, and it all goes back to trauma in the childhood, okay? And we get this, is it called dichotomy? And it's split in the self, right? So with empaths now, their way of healing that is being very open, very vulnerable, I'm probably not that vulnerable, but I can be, you know what I mean? And a key thing that we have to understand is vulnerability is a state, it's not an identity. So don't, like, the thing for me was I never wanted to be seen as being vulnerable. I had to be strong, I have to be tough, I have to be hard, I have to be cold, I have to be unfeeling, I have to be indifferent, I have to be a bitch. And that's my coping strategy. But the thing with being an empath is that if you have no sense of boundaries, if you can't read the fact that this is a dangerous situation, you wade in because you have that savior complex. I can heal you. I'm God. I'm goddess. I can do this. This is what my purpose in life. We are not rehabilitation centers for broken people. And it's the same as men, because men can be empaths as well. And they are not rehabilitation centers for broken women. You know? We're not, you don't have to heal everybody. Some people you can just be like, all right, son, all right, sis, go and get some counseling, you know? That's what I think anyway.
Some deep conversations.
Some deep conversations. And we've already done an hour and a half, you know.
I know.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go, guys, because we are sticking to a
giveaways to do.
Yeah.
So guys, what we'd like you to actually do is like next time we're gonna try and do these monthly if you're interested in them. We want you guys to help us navigate the conversations. Like, what do you want us to talk about? Who should we bring on? Yeah, like, let us know in the comments. Today we're just gonna choose somebody at random.
So Psalms, I'm gonna choose someone. I'm gonna choose someone for the massage. Psalms, you choose someone for the hair, right?
Okay.
So I'm going through. I'm going to start. Divine, you get
Divine. What does she win?
She wins the massage with Justice Massage.
Nice.
Oh wow.
And
come on, girl. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it.
And my winner is going to be Simone Grant.
Woo! Well done, Simone.
Am I people them? Am I people them?
There you go then. So we got Simone
well
Grant.
done, guys. Well done.
Well done. So, guys, listen, those of you, so that's Shazar and that's Simone. If you can connect with any one of us to collect your free prize so that we can hook you up with the sponsors, which was Shaida Styles and Justice Massage. Yeah. Thank you guys for being our sponsors. Thank you guys for tuning in. We couldn't have done this without you. You've made this show absolutely amazing. I've had a blast. I've been on the gin.
I know. I'm going to have my celebratory drink. It's Christmas, guys.
Come on.
Sorry. Before we go, helplines, we haven't shared.
We haven't.
So one of the most important parts of the show, and obviously,
Naomi, you take it over.
Yeah. We're new to this. We're new to this. But
you can also email us for the helpline info.
Pardon? Yeah, if you want any further info, you can email us. I just want to say, like, obviously, if you do need any help, if it is an emergency situation, please don't hesitate to call 999, regardless of the discussions when we're talking about police, and sometimes I'm not listening to everybody's story. You should still always call the police first if you are in immediate danger. And other than that, there are organizations you can reach out to, and I'm going to share some of them on my social media pages, on my Facebook, my Instagram, and as Sarah said, you can email us for further information
at ask@hitmail.com. refuge.com. There's the National Domestic Violence Helpline that is run by Refuge. You can Google that. For women, for men, there is Mankind. In Birmingham, there is Trident. So do not be subjected to domestic violence in silence. If you want to reach out to us, reach out to us. As I said, you can email us. Thank you for tuning in, guys. You have been amazing. And we are going to see you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. Bye.